Heck of a chapter for One Piece this time. Let's jump right to it. Hey guys, welcome to my chapter review of chapter 1035. I can't believe we're 35 chapters in now. After, a whole chapter 1000 we got at the beginning of the year. And here we are, chapter 135, almost at the end of the year. 1 year has passed since that moment. But we get the hype chapter of Zoro versus King, what we've been waiting for after we got Sanji versus Queen. So I guess some people could speculate this would happen, but some were saying it doesn't look like Queen's going to be finished. We don't think Queen's finished. It felt not easy, but it felt too quick. It didn't feel right. Some people are saying it wasn't right. And I also thought that Queen was going to get smacked around, but still we would get another chapter with Sanji versus Queen. But we get confirmation in this chapter that Queen did get, at least, quote unquote, Sanji is the winner of that fight. So we don't know if Queen will get up again, but we've seen how resilient and how they recover even after defeat. And we haven't even gotten how Morge has mentioned, we haven't even gotten Sanji's awakening, which is super bizarre. We don't get an awakening from these people that have had these devil fruits for quite a while. Well, I don't know how long they've had them, but first division, second division commanders don't have awakenings in this case, where Katakuri even had an awakening. But we're going super into, we're theory crafting here, why? But more just saying that they're not defeated. They're defeated, but they're going to recover because of their awakening status. That they'll recover and they'll come back into the fight. So Sanji and Zoro, well, we don't know if King's defeated yet, but maybe Queen comes back to keep fighting. But Sanji looks really pushed. I'm talking about too much about the chapter. We get the cover request, which is a new cover series. We finally get what says limited cover series of how the Germa is escaping Whole Cake Island, which is something we wanted to know, how the fishermen even escaped. Maybe they helped each other out. We'll find out with what Oda has in store for us. We start the chapter where Sanji sends Queen flying, and it's impressive how far you see Queen get flung into the air, defeated, in narration and narrator voice saying the winner is Sanji in this case. Sanji tucked away Chuji, saved Chuji to give back to the woman, and he remembers that this is like the similar pet and the similar mouse he would feed when he was aboard, Germa 66, and he just ends up handing it over, asking if she's good. When she said she is, okay, and then he just passes out. Now, Sanji was really pushed to his limits in this fight. I appreciate and I love everything that we've gotten out of Sanji in this arc so far. It's been super great so far. Now we get the big stake of the chapter, the prime wagyu of this chapter, Zoro versus King. And we immediately start with Zoro coming back from, Zoro, where we left off, with Zoro slashes right after he powers up, I assume. He slashes King, and we see that it actually affects King. It actually cuts King, and he says, And I love that we have Zoro's internal monologue, how he's deducing, how he's trying to figure out how his powers work, what's devil fruit, and what's like his own species. And he sees when the fire's off, when there's no fire, he seems to be moving really fast, but he's able to be hurt. Whereas when he has flames, he's able to just take the damage, and it doesn't really do much. It doesn't even, I don't know, we don't know if it doesn't do much, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on King. And he manages to cut King's mask off, and we see the mask falls, and the description is white hair, brown skin, what else? Black wings. Black wings. Okay, so not white wings like normal Skypians. He has black wings, which might be a trait of, Lunarians, but it seems to be a diversion of Skypians. Maybe we're deducing. We don't know yet. We were hoping, I was hoping that King might give some information, or maybe he does after Zoro finishes defeating him, or he gives a little bit of dialogue next chapter with Zoro just sitting down, or actually, I see this perfectly. If Zoro defeats him in this chapter, just defeats him, and then King falls, but then Zoro also falls because the medicine wore off. He finally cools down, like stops tensing up, and he just like collapses next to King, and King can have some monologue with Zoro saying, "Oh, this is my species." Because what else do they have? What better else do they have to do but lay there? But we kind of see this trait with King and Katakuri, very similar, where they don't want people to see what they look like. So even though a bunch of beast pirates saw what King looked like, he still just slashed at them. I don't know if they died, but he slashed at them, doesn't want anybody to see him, doesn't want any witnesses or give his whereabouts to the world government. Because even the bounty was 100 million berries for just tips on where the Lunarian it could be, or Lunarians could be. Which is wild. I don't even know how you would get that information. Which would mean there's a species out there. They said it was rumors in the chapter at least. After that little clash, Zoro mentions how he probably has a little bit of time left. He has to put everything into Enma constantly. So he's going to try and finish this as quickly as possible. And it starts putting armament into his swords. And he comes out with a new move called King of Hell. Very, very fitting to be calling that, considering Enma is like the King of Hell sword, named after the King of Hell. And we get a small flashback of King's past, which is great. Finally, we get to see where King came from, right? A little flashback. We didn't get a Queen flashback, which would have helped, seeing Queen work with Judge and maybe get a glimpse, a glimmer of Vegapunk, but that might be too revealing, right? Oda didn't want to do that. And we see Kaido escaping the facility he was held in, and he rescues King from there. And King was like I don't want to say the word lab rat, but he was like a test subject. There you go. A test subject where they were running constant experiments. So maybe Vegapunk could do something with that DNA. Maybe he kept some of the DNA. Could be. Maybe that's where the flame powers are coming from, something like that. But saves King and takes him with him to start a new pirate crew, the Beast Pirates, and he calls him, well, his name, at least in the translation, is Albert. Weird. But he says, no, that's not a fitting name. You're going to be King from now on, and takes him under his wing. These next few panels are honestly so good between King and Zoro. We rarely get some very good fights in One Piece. But here we have Zoro launch a Purgatory Onigiri after charging up. And without missing a beat, King sends out Imperial Flaming Wings, which is like a weird dragon. Well, it looks like it takes the form of Kaido almost, and forms his flame into like a magma-like substance that it's hotter. So he sends it towards Zoro. Zoro dodges it in time, but without hesitating, King comes down and smacks Zoro and switches his blade to the serrated blade. And Zoro's like, no, not again. You're not taking these swords again. And he pushes King off and rolls into place. And King is just smacking down without stopping, no hesitation. He immediately turns his flames off and blitzes Zoro. But that's not the right word. He doesn't blitz because Zoro's on the defense and he follows King and he gets ready. So he says, and I love the breakdown of what Zoro's doing, and he says he's faster. He's much faster. His flames are off. He's able to get hurt. So he prepares one of his swords to strike, which I think is Enma. And he blocks King with the other blade and immediately just reflects and sends his own attack towards King, which King says, and he acknowledges, you figured out how my body works, like the limitations of my abilities. And I absolutely love how cocky Zoro is here, and he's like, oh, why are you blocking my attacks now? I thought they didn't do anything to you, and his flames are off. So Zoro's personality in this fight has been so good. His dedication to winning the fight has been great, and the revelation that he has Conqueror's Haki is amazing. I'm very surprised we didn't get Asura to defeat King or something, we got a different ability later on. So with that, King flies into the sky and says, you're incapable of defeating me. You're biologically unable to defeat me. And Zoro gets frustrated, what type of excuse is that? And they started going back and forth with oh, I'll remember you as my, like, you know, the fierce samurai that you are. And Zoro says, well, if you're even able to remember me after this next attack. And King sends out, I like how he says extra large, so he just sends out the, I would assume, the strongest imperial flaming wings that he has, making it the biggest, resembling the biggest dragon, or Kaido. With Zoro charging, he jumps straight into it, and he uses his freaking awesome fire cutting ability. And he does King of Hell 3-sword style new attack, 103 mercies, dragon damnation. That sweet, sick new attack. We don't get Asura, unfortunately, but you see the stunned look on King's face, and I actually do think he might be defeated here, because in the panel you see that he goes straight through King's fire, which, great, we finally see him cut fire, or King's fire at least. And we have him cut one of King's wings, half of, like a piece of King's wing, and we see him break King's sword. Such a great fight to Zoro, such a great upbringing, and how Zoro is now with Sanji. Sanji being second commander level, and Zoro being first commander level after these fights, after these duels. And that's an end to the chapter, and we're closing in on the holidays, so I think it's that since Christmas and that end of the year time is coming, they skip that chapter and they start on next year. But there might be spoilers in this next upcoming week. Or maybe not that Christmas, but the week after that. Or no, I think we do get it. One of these weeks has a spoiler, but then they call the next week a break. With that, we get the end of the chapter. We get a great conclusion for Sanji. I want to assume we get the conclusion for this, saying Zoro's the winner. We might get something with Zoro collapsing because his medicine runs out. He's completely done. We more just saying, and it makes sense, that it's really weird that we haven't seen any awakenings from any of the Beast Pirates. And even people that are complete fodder in the New World had awakening, Zoan devil fruits. Why would Oda bring in awakened Zoans into what's it called? Into the prison when it really didn't even play a factor? And even like they were fodder to Luffy. I'm not sure if they were experiments. But it brings up a good point that it doesn't feel, and I feel like we're going to go throughout the whole chapter, the whole arc, saying it doesn't feel like they're done. It doesn't feel like they're defeated yet because they haven't awakened. But that's it for that chapter. Predictions could be, well, we finally got Sanji winning, Zoro potentially winning this chapter. Now all we're missing is a little bit of Yamato, a little bit of Momo, and the big fight that we're also waiting for, Luffy versus Kaido. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.